Hello there, everybody, and welcome to our 2022 Draft League Draft and Analysis video. First, I'd like to announce the teams. Once again, you can see them there on the list, but I'm just going to announce them again anyway. We've got the Houston Ho-Oh, which was last year's Minnesota Suicune team. The Pokemon Power, We Are the Ma Champion. The Tampa Bay Steelix, My Little Ponyta, and the Atlanta Firo. So this will be our draft video. Going to type them in as they come in. So here we go. With the first pick of the 2022 draft, We Are the Ma Champion. And We Are the Ma Champion selected Suicune. Now, I know this upset the Ho-Oh team a whole lot because they really wanted to pick Suicune first. So that was interesting to deal with. All right. With the second pick in the 2022 draft, My Little Ponyta selected last year's MVP, Kadabra. With the third pick in the draft, the Houston Ho-Oh selected Entei. With the fourth pick, yours truly, the Tampa Bay Steelix, I selected Qwilfish. That was my KO leader last season and second in the entire league. So I felt that it was worth a high pick this year. With the fifth pick, the Pokemon Power selected Moltres. Moltres was surprisingly good. I kind of forgot about how well it performed last season. Then I looked back at the numbers. Let me pull them up real quick. Yeah, Moltres' numbers last year were 15 knockouts to 8 feints in 10 appearances. That was better than I thought it did. But to prove a point again, Qwilfish had 21 knockouts and 10 feints. The only one that did better was Kadabra. It had 19 knockouts. Actually, Qwilfish led the league in knockouts, but Kadabra was MVP because it only fainted 5 times. So, yeah, it was a close race there. All right. Well, with the sixth pick of the draft, the Atlanta Firo selected Charizard. This made the Pokemon Power very upset. They were trying to apparently start their team off with Moltres and then hope they could get the Charizard in the second round. Charizard also stunned us all last season. Charizard wasn't used until very late in the season, then had 7 knockouts and no feints when it was used. So yeah. Round 2. We Are the Ma Champion selects Azumarill. This one was an interesting pick to me because if it was Azumarill nowadays, with huge power and the fact that moves can be physical and special, I would love that pick. And it has the fairy typing. But with this being Generation 2, where the water moves count as special moves, it doesn't have huge power, it's not a fairy type. I just don't know if it's going to be that great or not. I've got a question mark by it. I don't have it as like great or bad, but that one's going to be an interesting pick. It was interesting to see it fly off the board this early. My Little Ponyta with the number 8 pick selects Gengar. That was another one that upset the Pokemon Power, but I think the Pokemon Power went into this with the idea that they were going to just get their whole team back from last season. So I don't know how likely that was going to actually happen. Ho-Oh then selected Raikou with its number 2 pick. With the 10th pick of the draft, I went again with someone from last year's team. I picked up Magneton. Magneton, much like Qwilfish, did a lot of work for me last season, so I felt if I could get those two to start a team with, I'd be in pretty good shape. So I'm very happy with how things started with those first 2 picks. With the 11th pick, the Pokemon Power selected Golem. So far, for the most part, people sticking with what they know. We'll go back over the first 2 rounds here in just a second. And the Atlanta Firo selected Snorlax. The almighty Snorlax. I was actually, at the time of my pick with Magneton, I thought about picking Snorlax. I was like, I'll pick Magneton, and if I can get lucky, I'll get Snorlax in the 3rd round. Well, this is true in both these Pokemon leagues and fantasy football. The manager of the Atlanta Firo, I don't know if he can read my mind or like with telepathy or ESP or or if we're just that similar, but he almost always wants the same players in football that I want and the same Pokemon that I want in the Pokemon League. So it's uncanny how many times I'll say, "Oh, I want so and so next," and then he picks them. So uh, I won't use last names for the sake of sparing you guys, but Tyler, great picking, buddy, and it breaks my heart almost every time. All right, so far the Firo had Charizard, which we know did well with the power last year, and Snorlax, who was on his team. Sarah with the We Are the Mod Champion, Suicune, who was pretty decent with another team. Azumarill was a new one. My Little Ponyta, Kadabra, who was the MVP, and Gengar, who was with the power. Houston picked up Entei and Raikou, which they had both of them last season as the Suicune. I got two from last year's team, and so did the power. So far, everyone going with the exception of the Azumarill pick, everyone's going with Pokemon we already know from last season. Round 3, We Are the Ma Champion. Selected Ursaring. That is another question mark. I don't know if it'll be good or not. Looking at its stats, it has potential. It's a little bulkier than I remember. But it's got some interesting moves. I don't know if they're great, but they're interesting. It does have rest. So that may come into play. If rest really works out well for it, kind of like Dugong did well last season with rest for the Firo. If Ursaring ends up being a rest monster, then it could be a great pick. If it ends up not being strong enough to make rest be used effectively, then it could be a bad pick. I don't know. So that's a wait and see. My Little Ponyta in the 14th pick selected Lantern. Lantern was an excellent pick here. I know it made the Firo pretty sad when that happened. He was not happy about that. Once again, just using first names for the sake of not putting anyone's info out there. But Haley, great pick there. All right. Iris's team, the Houston Ho-Oh. The Houston Ho-Oh in the 3rd round in the 15th pick selected Articuno. You're probably noticing a theme here. This team, the Houston Ho-Oh, was going for as many legendaries as they could get. Tampa Bay Steelix, my team. My 3rd pick was Misdreavus. I really wanted Misdreavus last season, got beat out to it, so this season I was going to take it early. That one also did not play over real well with the Atlanta Firo. He was very upset that we were all taking his best Pokemon at this point from last year. But hey, when you go 15-1 and win the championship, that's going to happen. All right. With the 17th pick, the Pokemon Power selected Dragonite. Dragonite was pretty good last season. I don't know if it deserved to be the 17th pick because of its moveset in this game. But in general, Dragonite's usually pretty good, so I think it'll probably still work out. And then the Atlanta Firo ended the 3rd round by picking Hitmonlee. Once again, I was in the same draft room as Karen, who is running the Pokemon Power. And literally right before that pick, I said, I'm going to get Hitmonlee next round because I picked before her, so I knew it didn't matter that she knew. Literally right after I said those words, the Atlanta Firo picked Hitmonlee. So, yeah. Like I said, I don't know if he can read my mind or what, but Tyler just seems to know who I want to pick, and he always gets them right before me. All right. We Are the Ma Champion. Picked up Wobbuffet. This is another kind of wait and see pick because Wobbuffet is interesting if the predictions are going well. Like if you're able to figure out what the computer's doing or if the computer knows what you're doing, great Pokemon. If it's the opposite and you keep guessing wrong between Counter and Miracle, it's going to be useless. So definitely luck-based. I definitely think that it is a better Pokemon when the computer uses it because the computer, I don't want to say it cheats, but it feels like when it comes to predictions, the computer gets it right more often than we humans do with something like Wobbuffet. So that might be a strategic Pokemon to just use in the computer battles. We'll see. Maybe with my battling, I can maybe prove her wrong, and prove myself wrong, and get Wobbuffet to work. But I have a feeling it'll be a monster in the games where the computer's in charge of her team. My Little Ponyta selected Nidoking. So Nidoking. Uh, so that's Nidoking was great last year, and he was on My Little Ponyta, so it makes sense once again going with something they know. So far, we are the Mall champions. Really, the only one going with Pokemon that we aren't sure how they're going to play. And again, that could be a good thing. We just don't know. Whereas we know what Nidoking did last year, we know what Hitmonlee did last year, we know what Mischievous did last year. So I don't think those picks are necessarily bad. I just it's harder to judge since I don't have data to look at as far as how they did last year. All right, the Houston Ho-Oh with their fourth pick selected Zapdos. And with that, all of the legendaries in our draft are off the board because we only had the birds and the dogs in the draft, so six. Four of them went to one team. And then Moltres went to the Power, and Suicune went to We Are the Mall Champion. Tampa Bay Steelix. With my fourth pick, I selected Ninetales. Ninetales performed very well on one of our lesser teams last season, so I wanted to give it a shot because one of the things I was missing last season was a reliable fire type, so I figured it would work out for me. All right, the Pokemon Power with the 23rd pick of the draft selected Tentacruel. Once again, selecting someone that was on her team last season, so staying with familiarity. And the 24th pick of the draft went to the Atlanta Firo. They selected Haunter, who was on my team last season. Haunter did very well last season, 8 knockouts to 3 feints in its limited games I used it in. I think I used it in like maybe 6 or 7 games, something like that. 6 or 7 matches, so it was pretty solid. All right. In the 5th round, the 25th pick of the draft, We Are the Mall Champion selected Scizor. Now, this is one of those where I think that Sarah also had mind reading powers or just got lucky or something, because I was going to pick Scizor with my pick this round. And because last season, Scizor was on her team. And if you look at Scizor's moveset, between Metal Claw, which is supposed to be 95% accurate, even though it seems like it missed 2/3 of the time last season, 95% accurate, still pretty good move with Scizor's high attack stat. And the fact that Scizor also gets agility to make its speed doubled, so you can double its speed and really get something going. I think that it's got potential to be a really good Pokemon, and just the computer didn't use it right last season. But we'll see. I could be wrong. But so I wanted to give it a chance, but she beat me to it and decided to double down and pick it again. So if it works out for you this season, Sarah, kudos to you. All right, My Little Ponyta with the 26th pick selected Psyduck. Psyduck was, again, one of those Pokemon that did very well for one of the lesser teams last season, so I felt like that was a pretty worthy pickup. I don't know if I would have picked it this early, but she didn't pick it too early. Like, I was thinking maybe round 6 or 7, so 5 isn't really that much of a stretch. So pretty good pick. The Houston Ho-Oh. This was their first pick that was not a legendary, and what a difference it was. We went from picking legendaries to Ghastly. I think this person had their heart set on Haunter or Gengar, but both were gone at this point, so they just went, I'll pick Ghastly. So it'll be interesting to see how Ghastly stacks up. Ghastly and another Pokemon in this draft, Abra, both of those are small baby Pokemon, but they have high speeds and high special attacks. So depending on the matchup, they might actually be able to pull some weight. So it'll be very interesting to see how that Ghastly pick ends up turning out. All right. My Tampa Bay Steelix are next. And my Steelix for this pick, I picked up Slowking. Now, this is one we don't really know much about. I was debating for the longest time here between Slowking and Slowbro. Because while in the video games their stats are very different, one of them is better at physical defense and the other one's better at special defense. In Pokemon Stadium, it's not that big of a difference, and the move sets are pretty much the same. They both have a water move, they both have a psychic move, and then 2 moves that are kind of after that. So what it really came down to was, did you want the stronger move to be the water move or the psychic move? Slowking had Psychic and Water Gun. Slowbro had Surf and Confusion. Ultimately, I decided that I wanted to have Psychic over Surf. with Slowking, and one of Slowking's moves was it had Disable. So I was thinking that it could potentially be a Kadabra counter or maybe some other um, annoying Pokemon. So with Disable, so ultimately that's what won it over for me. So I picked up Slowking. So I'll be interested to see how that turns out. The Pokemon Power with the 29th pick selected Alakazam. Let's hope Alakazam doesn't throw too many games like that one he threw last season for her when matched up against Kadabra. Uh, and with the 30th pick of the draft, the Atlanta Firo selected Lickitung. Lickitung was another Pokemon that did better than expected last season. Like, it wasn't spectacular, but I certainly wouldn't have expected it to have the success that it had. Now, it was on a bad team last season, so you never know how much of that impacted its numbers. But I'm very interested to see if the Atlanta Firo can make that work. Round 6, we are the Machampion. Selected Machamp, our first, and I believe our only mascot pick, unless you count Pikachu and Raichu for the power. I'm not going to say which one they picked, but because of the lightning bolt in the logo, I guess you could maybe argue one of those. But I believe that was the only mascot pick in this whole draft. Came in the 6th round. My Little Ponyta with the 32nd pick selected Houndour. Houndour just has a better moveset than Houndoom in this game because it's got Sludge Bomb and better moves. Houston Ho-Oh, I was speaking earlier about Abra. They picked up Abra because Alakazam was gone. I need a drink of water real quick. Ah, that's better. So Abra is who that person picked. My turn again. I selected in the 6th round Skarmory. I was debating heavily between Skarmory and Steelix right here. Ultimately, I decided I had Steelix last season, and while it was a great Pokemon, I wasn't sure that anyone would be looking in the in this first half of the draft for it. So I was like, okay, I'll try to push it one more round. Let's pick up Skarmory. Because like Scizor, I think Skarmory got a bit of a bad rap last season. I think it was only in like one match, maybe two. I think it was in one match. It got knocked out once by an electric type, which you know is one of its weaknesses, and it wasn't ever given a second chance. So I was like, I'm going to try Skarmory, see how that works. So I hope that works out. I think it's a good Pokemon, though. Pokemon Power selected Tyranitar. While Tyranitar's moveset is not great in this game, Tyranitar showed last season it could hold its own anyway, even while not being on the greatest team. The Atlanta Firo selected Steelix. So once again, I planned out who I was going to pick the next round, and once again, Tyler swooped in and took him away. So let's count now. Through 6 rounds, Tyler did that for 1, 2, 3. So we halfway through the draft, half of Tyler's picks were ones where he picked someone I was planning to get next. Like I said, I think the guy can read my mind or something. Round 7, we are the Machampion. Selected Donphan. Donphan was a Pokemon that no one used at any point during the league last season. It does have Earthquake with a high attack stat, so it could be good. But I don't know what else to make of it other than that. The rest of its moveset wasn't that great. It is kind of slow. So we'll see what happens when it gets out there on the battlefield. My Little Ponyta selected Jinx. Jinx did very well last season. It was fast. It had, I think, Ice Punch and Confusion. I know it had that had Ice Punch. It was a force to be reckoned with last season. The Houston Ho-Oh selected Umbreon. This is where I feel like they got back on track instead of picking the baby Pokemon in the draft. All right, I was up, and since Steelix was gone, I wanted to make sure I procured the other favorite Pokemon of mine from last season's team, Blastoise. So a pretty good pickup there. I know it's mostly Hydro Pump with the occasional Mud Slap, but hey, it worked a lot last season, so why not? With the 41st pick, the Pokemon Power, after seeing me pick Blastoise, they were reminded that the starters were out there, so they picked up Venusaur. And then the Atlanta Firo ended the 7th round by picking up Houndoom. So, once again, Pokemon Power, mostly to this point, the Pokemon Power, with the exception of Tyranitar, had just picked everyone that was on the team last season as their picks. But Tyranitar was a good pickup. I like that one. That was a good way to mix it up. Round 8, We Are the Maw Champion selected Heracross. That was a Pokemon I thought several times about adding to my team last season and never quite tried it out. So, once again, I know I've said this a lot. I'm going to be interested to see how that works out. I'm going to be interested to see how a lot of these work out. We had 17 Pokemon in this draft that were not used at all in a battle last season amongst our 8 teams. So it'll be interesting to see how they all perform, to see where they stack up against the ones we were using. All right, My Little Ponyta picked up Meganium. This one was an interesting pick for me, not necessarily in a good way. Meganium is not a bad Pokemon in the regular Pokemon games, but the moveset on this, where it has Poison Powder instead of Toxic, Reflect, Solar Beam, which has to take a turn to charge, so Meganium has to take another hit before it can use it. And I don't even remember the other move. I think it's Strength or something like that. It's just, it's not desirable. I would have liked to see it have Razor Leaf or even like a Mega Drain or a Giga Drain. Like, they could have given it a stronger grass move than Solar Beam. I mean, Venusaur doesn't have Solar Beam, for example. You could have given it, I don't remember if it's Giga Drain or Mega Drain. I think it's Mega Drain. Why didn't they give that to Meganium? That would have worked. You could have done Mega Drain, Reflect for good defense while also absorbing some health back. I don't know, but it kind of got a little bit shafted with the Solar Beam. Now, if it gets out there with a sunny day and Solar Beam doesn't have to charge, maybe it's a different story, but it's it was an interesting pick. That was one that I thought it would maybe get picked, but I was thinking more like the double-digit rounds. Let's see here. Next up, we got the Houston Ho-Oh going with another EV. This time Vaporeon. Vaporeon was another one that did very well despite being on an underperforming team last season. For my pickup, I picked up Magmar. I just wanted to have a second fire type because, again, fire types were a big issue on my team last season. I even tried Quillfish and Slugma at one point because I was desperate for fire types, so I wanted to make sure I had a couple. The Pokemon Power then selected Pinsir. Pinsir was another one of those where I feel like, even though we got to see it last season, we still didn't get a good observation of it because it was in one battle. So, like, it's hard to judge off of one battle. And then Atlanta picked what might be the steal of this draft, Staryu in the 8th round. I looked over this thing's moveset, and I can't believe that we all were blind enough to let it go this late. Thunder, Psychic. I don't remember if it's Surf or Hydro Pump. Either of those are great. I mean, that thing's a monster. That thing could potentially be a monster. Like, now granted, all those moves except Psychic have a chance to miss, and it doesn't get Stab from Psychic because it's just a water type. It hasn't evolved yet. But those are still very powerful moves, and if they hit, that could be scary. So, that's a Pokemon that's got a chance to surprise some of us. Next up, for the We Are the Maw Champion, we got Togetic. This one was one of those like Meganium that just kind of baffled me. Togetic does not have any physical attack really whatsoever. It's more of a special attacker that's built for defense. And all of its attacks are Double Edge and Fly are physical. As Metronome, which might give it a special attack, but Metronome's random, so you don't know. You could also get Splash like Magikarp. And then finally, its last move was something really that I don't think it'll use. So it's just that one was an interesting pick. Again, I understand maybe wanting it on the team, but it was shocking to see it go when there were still, in my opinion, much better Pokemon left. Speaking of better Pokemon left, My Little Ponyta selected Fearow, who was last year's big surprise Pokemon, maybe other than Charizard. Fearow was a monster when it was used last season, and I think My Little Pony Tom might have done that on purpose just to spite the Atlanta Fearow so they couldn't get a mascot pick. But a good pickup. Houston Ho-Oh selected Miltank. I know that Miltank is one of uh, that manager's favorite Pokemon, so that made a lot of sense. I did something I don't normally do. I don't normally like to take big gambles in Pokemon, but I decided to pick up Ampharos because that Zap Cannon and Dynamic Punch, it seemed to hit like 80% of the time last season when everything says it shouldn't hit that often. I picked it up and it'll probably hit 10% of the time with my luck, but yeah. Decided I'd give it a chance. The Pokemon Power selected Raichu. So that's the electric type that the Pokemon Power got. Raichu's pretty good. It's got Thunder, Quick Attack, Thunder Wave. Its last attack is Tail Whip, so that's useless. But the other three, Thunder Wave slows something down, Thunder for heavy hitting, and then Quick Attack if you can't Thunder, I guess. The only way Pikachu is better is they had Headbutt instead of Tail Whip. So, but Raichu will hit harder with Thunder than Pikachu could hit with Thunderbolt. So that's still a pretty good pickup. I don't think that... It depends on what you want. If you want consistency, you go with Pikachu. If you want heavy hitting, you pick Raichu. So they're about even. All right, the Atlanta Fearow then select Dugong. I can't believe we let him get Dugong and Snorlax again. I don't know what's wrong with us. He's got two very tanky Pokemon that just will not go down in a fight. That's scary. Round 10, we are the Mod Champion. Went with Muck, another dynamic puncher. Muck was pretty solid last season. My Little Pony Toss selected Blissey. Now, Blissey, this was another one that I was looking forward to getting. I hadn't decided I was getting it that round, but it was on my list. My Little Pony Toss did a great job picking that one. I think that was an excellent pickup. Blissey is hit or miss. If it goes against a physical attack and a physical Pokemon, it's going down in like one shot, maybe two if you're lucky. If it goes against a special Pokemon, though, like take that Raichu just a couple picks ago, it's going to survive like 8 Thunders. Like its special defense and health are so high that Blissey's going to be around a while. So it's very situational, but if put out there in the right situation, it can be very good. All right, Houston Ho-Oh selected Forretress. This was mostly a pick because this person wanted a Steel type, and at this point, the only ones left were Forretress and Magnemite, so she went Forretress. All right, I was up, and I decided to go with Kingdra. Kingdra is another Pokemon that I don't know how well it's going to play in this league because while it was drafted last season, it was not used at all by the team that drafted it. So I don't know if it'll be good or not. Its only weakness in Gen 2 was Dragon, which the only Pokemon with Dragon moves in this game are Dratini and Dragonair, unless you count Dragon Rage, which has fixed damage. So, and Dratini and Dragonair, I'll spoil this, were not drafted. So, unless someone picked up Dratini and Dragonair and used Outrage, Kingdra has no weakness. So, I'm very excited about picking up Kingdra because if it is even halfway decent, having no weaknesses and being halfway decent will really pay off. So I felt that was a really good late pickup. Yes, it means I have a lot of water types on my team, but I couldn't pass up the no weaknesses possibility there. Pokemon Power. The Pokemon Power selected Primeape. I completely forgot, honestly, that Primeape and Mankey were still in the draft. I was thinking about fighting types. I was like, well, we got Machop and Machoke left, Hitmonchan. And then the Power surprised me by picking Primeape. I was like, oh, it was out. There was still another good one out there. So, good pickup. The Atlanta Fearow selected Chinchou. I don't know why they made this pick. I think it's a good pick, but I don't know the thought behind it. I like to think that the Fearow made that pick out of spite because he couldn't get Lantern. That's what I would like to think anyway. We are the Mod Champion selected Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff was okay in the one battle that the Firo used it last season. I don't have more data than that, just that it was okay, so I don't know what to make. Sand Slash was then picked up by My Little Ponyta. That was one of the ones we haven't seen, so who knows how that'll go. Uh, Houston Ho-Oh selected Bayleaf, so Razor Leaf a lot, I guess. Tampa Bay Steelix selected Jumpluff. I know Jumpluff was not great last season, but I think that was more or less me not reading the situationals well. I kept trying to Mega Drain and paralyze everything, when really what I need to do is I need to either decide if I'm going to paralyze something, I need to do Paraflinch with Headbutt, Stun Spore. If I'm going to use Mega Drain, I should just go into Mega Drain. I think that if I approach it better this season, Jumpluff may work. Even though it was not my last pick, I have it rated as my worst pick. So I'm not heading into the season with great expectations for Jumpluff, but I needed some sort of grass type on the team, and it was the one I decided to give a chance to. The Pokemon Power then selected Lapras. Lapras, again, was one of those that only appeared in one battle last season, so I think it needs to be given a chance. It's got that Perish Song Whirlpool combo, so if you're able to pull that off and keep Lapras alive long enough, that could be a lethal combination. And then the Atlanta Firo picked Hypno. Hypno is going to be interesting because it's pretty much going to rely on putting someone to sleep with Hypnosis and then Dream Eater. So again, a Pokemon that can heal, much like the Dugong. So, bulky team for the Atlanta Firo. We Are the Machampion then selected Marowak, yet another Pokemon that no one used in the league last season, so I don't know what to make of it, because I can look at a moveset and be like, oh, I think it's going to be good, but until I see it battle the computer, it's kind of hard to judge. My Little Ponyta finished things off with Poliwrath as a water fighting type. That was another Pokemon I forgot was available as far as fighting types go at that point. The Houston Ho-Oh finished with Bulbasaur. I was a little confused about that because there was still Ivysaur out there as well, but they wanted Bulbasaur, so they got Bulbasaur. Tampa Bay Steelix. I finished with Mr. Mime. My thought process here was I had a second psychic type that wasn't weak to Thunder Punch like Slow King is, because Kadabra also knows Thunder Punch. And Mr. Mime also has Barrier, Substitute, Baton Pass. You can double, triple, quadruple your defense, your physical defense, set up a substitute, or substitute, then set up the defenses. You get the idea. And then pass that substitute and the defense boost to another Pokemon. There's going to be a situation this season where that plays a role in a battle. I can almost guarantee that. So I was very happy with that as my last pick. Pokemon Power then selected Magnemite as an attempt to have another electric Pokemon and to have a steel type on the team. Magnemite did okay for me last season in the battles that I had it. I would have picked it again if there weren't other options out there. Like I would have maybe picked it if I didn't go with Jumpluff, for example. And then the Firo finished with Gloom, who also was on the Firo last season. So that was our draft. I thought it went pretty well. I've got notes and preseason rankings. Before we move on, I'm going to try and open up the standings here. Well, like what I will be showing the standings on, I mean. All right. Do that. All right. Yeah, that's on there. Okay. So, before we get started, there's our 6 teams, and there's everyone's roster. The number was just so I could make sure that I had enough slots for 12 and then 2 extra spots, and then I have what order they were picked in. The number doesn't have to stay there all season. It just made it easier to sort things. So here's the rosters. We got the Tampa Bay Steelix have Quillfish, Magneton, Mischievous, Ninetales, Slowking, Skarmory, Blastoise, Magmar, Ampharos, Kingdra, Jumpluff, Mr. Mime. The Atlanta Firo have Charizard, Snorlax, Hitmonlee, Haunter, Lickitung, Steelix, Houndoom, Staryu, Dugong, Chinchou, Hypno, and Gloom. The Houston Ho-Oh have Entei, Raikou, Articuno, Zapdos, Ghastly, Abra, Umbreon, Vaporeon, Miltank, Forretress, Bayleaf, and Bulbasaur. My Little Ponyta has Kadabra, Gengar, Lantern, Nidoking, Psyduck, Houndour, Jinx, Meganium, Fearow, Blissey, Sandslash, and Poliwrath. Pokemon Power have Moltres, Golem, Dragonite, Tentacruel, Alakazam, Tyranitar, Venusaur, Pinsir, Raichu, Primeape, Lapras, Magnemite. And We Are the Machampion have Suicune, Azumarill, Ursaring, Wobbuffet, Scizor, Machamp, Donphan, Heracross, Togetic, Muck, Wigglytuff, Marowak. All right. So now that I've got that recap out of the way, let me just say that I'm going to announce our predictions here. I'm going to start with everybody down in the corner here, all 6 of the teams. And what I will do, actually, this was a bad idea because I wanted to do this a little differently. So give me a second. I should start with the worst team going up, not up going down. So let's get everyone actually up here, and we'll move them down as they get ranked. So let's go through the teams first, one at a time. The team that I currently have in dead last. Now, before I say this, I want to clarify. This year's draft is very even. There's more parity than there was last season. Literally, there might be, gosh, if I'm predicting standings, a win difference between second and sixth. Like, I wouldn't be shocked this year if out of 15 games we had, like, first place won 9, second place 8, third place 8, fourth 7th has 7, 5 has 7, and 6 has 6. Like, it's gonna be that close. Like, literally just a game or two difference between like first and last. So just because and the other thing I'm doing for those unknown Pokemon I mentioned, I did a grading scale of A, B, and C. You were an A tier Pokemon, a B tier, or a C tier. If you were a Pokemon that was not used, for the most part, there were some where the movesets were so bad it was easy to tell they're not going to be good. For the most part, if it was a Pokemon that was new that I was unsure about, I marked it as a B, because I don't know which way it's going to go. And what it is, the teams with the most A's are at the top. The teams with the most... Then if they have the same number of A's, it goes by the number of B's. Then the same number of C's, etc. So, and just because I mark you last doesn't mean you're going to end up last. I don't think the predictions were 100% spot on last season, other than predicting the Fearow to win. So, yeah. So without further ado, here's the draft analysis. I gave a little bit of the individual Pokemon during the draft, so this is just the rankings now. The preseason rankings, I have at number 6. We Are the Machampion. The biggest thing there is out of 12 Pokemon, there were no A's, 7 B's, and 5 C's. Of those 7 B's, 6 of them were Pokemon that I don't know if they're going to be good or bad. So for all I know, all 6 of them could end up being an A, and this ends up being our first place team. But with the data I have to look at right now to make an analysis, that's the best I can do. So right now, We Are the Machampion is predicted to be 6 out of 6. Again, doesn't mean you're going to end up in dead last. It just means that that's all I can do right now with the data I have and the data I know. All right, number 5 is the Houston Ho-Oh. The Houston Ho-Oh had one Pokemon that was in the A tier. That was Vaporeon, based on its performance last season, which actually surprised me a little bit. But when I looked at the numbers, it had a significantly higher amount of knockouts than it did faints. So Vaporeon was A tier. 10 of the 12 picks were B tier, 1 C tier. Of those 10 B tier, only 2 were Pokemon that we did not have data on from last season. So I feel pretty confident there. But see, that's an example. Only 1 A tier. If 2 of those unknowns work out for the Machampion, then they would already be ahead. So these rankings are based on the data I have to work with, but they could easily change. In number 4, the preseason power rankings, I have the Pokemon Power. The Pokemon Power had 2 A tier Pokemon, 9 B tier, and 1 C. 1 of those 9 B tier are an unknown. So I feel pretty confident about this pick. Depending on how we do the playoffs this season, it'll be 4 or 5 that make it anyway. So regardless of which format we follow, the Power would be a playoff team. So pretty good job picking. You should be happy with your team. It's a good team. You're going to have just as much chance of competing as you did last season when you made it to the championship. Number 3. Is My Little Ponyta. My Little Ponyta finished with 3 A tier Pokemon, 8 B tier, and 1 C tier. 2 of those 8 B tier were unknowns. The 3 A tiers, I didn't do that for the Power, so I'll go back to the Power right after I'm done with the Ponyta here. The 3 A tier Pokemon for the Ponyta were Kadabra, last season's MVP, no duh. Lantern, who was very solid, and Nidoking, who actually was the knockout leader for My Little Ponyta last season. So 3 very good Pokemon there. Like I said, depending on how some of these work out, like if Blissey ends up being a monster, that could really change things too. But yeah, right now I have you in the 3 spot. So again, a playoff team, good chance to compete and win. For the Power, the 2 A tiers they had were Moltres and Golem. Moltres and Golem had great KO to faint ratios last season. All right. And now we're down to the final 2. And I went through these 2 teams in particular like 4 different times. Really thinking hard about the grades because I really don't want to post the outcome I got. And you'll all understand that here in a second why I don't want to post that. Because it can only end badly for me. But what I came up with was the Atlanta Firo at number 2 and the Tampa Bay Steelix at number 1. Now, please hear me out before you get too upset. In particular, Tyler, the Atlanta Firo manager. So here's how it broke down. The Atlanta Firo had 4 A tier Pokemon, 7 B tier, 1 C tier. The lone C tier was Lickitung because it did not have a good KO to faint ratio. Now, it might have been because it was on a bad team, but it was like almost a 2/3 faint to knockout ratio. So it was pretty bad in that regard. However, again, 3 of your 7 B tiers were unknown. Between Staryu, Chinchou, and Hypno. So that could easily, if like say 2 of those 3 work out, that could easily sway Atlanta into first. So I had to think really long and hard about these move sets and where I was going to rank these things to try and figure out if it was going to be 1-2 or 2-1, like how it was going to work. Now the reason the Tampa Bay Steelix are in first is the Tampa Bay Steelix have 5 A tier Pokemon. So it's literally just 5-4. So again, if 2 work out for Atlanta Firo, all of a sudden Atlanta Firo is the best team again. So I do not claim that it's a dominant thing. Heck, between the top 4, literally the Steelix could be 4th, the Firo could be 3rd, the Ponyta could be 2nd, the Power could be 1st. Like just by like 1 Pokemon being better than expected. And we are the Machampion, Houston Ho-Oh. They could easily get to like 2nd or 3rd. Maybe even win, like I said, depending on how many. In particular, we are the Machampion since 6 of them are unknowns. So like I have no idea how to really judge that team at all right now. But anyway, the Steelix have 5A caliber Pokemon, 6 Bs, and a C. 3 of the Steelix's Bs are unknown. The unknown being Slowking, Kingdra, and Mr. Mime. And I have a really good feeling about all 3 of those. Just based on the moveset and the stats that go with the movesets. The 5As, I mean, Quillfish was the knockout leader in the entire league last season, so that was a good pick. Magneton, big staple on the team last season, good pick. Mischievous was a big time contributor on the Fearow last season, who won the title. Ninetales, who was another overlooked but strong competitor on one of the lesser teams. It had a positive knockout to faint ratio despite being on a team that won 4 games, 4 matches last season. That's pretty hard to do. So that means when it was winning, it was taking out like 4 or 5 Pokemon a match. And then Blastoise had a surprisingly nice knockout to faint ratio. I was very surprised by that. I thought I was originally going to have Blastoise as a B tier, and then I had to reclassify it after looking at the data because the data supported it being an A tier. So, very excited about that. I had 5 A's, 6 B's, and a C, like I said. The C was Jumpluff. I'm not entirely sold on my pick with Jumpluff. I think that was my, even though it wasn't my last pick of the draft, I think it was my weakest pick of the draft. I picked it solely just to have a grass type on the team. Don't be shocked if it, after the first couple weeks, if it's underperforming, if I replace it with a different grass type. But that's where it all stands. Those are the predictions. But again, like I said, I think it's going to be very close this season. You could easily flip this around and go, instead of top left corner being best and bottom right corner being worst, it could be bottom right corner best and top left corner for worst. So, I mean, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. We're going to start games this weekend. The first matchups will be the Tampa Bay Steelix at We Are the Champions. So the computer will be controlling the Tampa Bay Steelix. So I don't get to be myself in the opener, but that's all right. The Houston Ho-Oh will play at home against the Pokemon Power. So the computer will be representing the Pokemon Power. And the Atlanta Fearow will be at home against My Little Ponyta. So the computer will be representing My Little Ponyta. Like last season, I'm going to keep a record of how I do against the computer. As you can see, I've got last season's record in there too, just for reference sake. It'll be 15 games over 15 weeks. Sorry, this is a lot of talking without a drink of water. Over that 15 weeks, we're allowed to make 10 roster moves. Our rules for the roster moves is that you cannot cut a Pokemon from your team until after it has participated in a battle. And when I say participate, I don't mean you just chose it for that week. I mean it actually made it into the battle at some point. It popped out of the Pokeball in the battle. Now, it's okay if it popped out of the Pokeball and then immediately got retreated back into the Pokeball to make a switch or something, but it has to pop out of the Pokeball at some point to count. At the moment, I'm still leaning toward the 5-team playoff bracket because that is what we did last season. I know we've got less teams, but that's what we did last season, so that's sort of the standard we've set. We might change that to 4. I'll survey the other managers and figure out what we're doing there. So it'll be a 4 or 5-team bracket at the end after our 15 games. If it ends up being a 4-team bracket, we might do like a best of 3 in the championship or something. We'll see, but we'll probably do single elimination now that I think about it, because then people would have to make 3 different lineups for a best of 3. So single elimination still works best. With 15 games, I decided that the 3 teams with the worst records from last season would get more home games as an attempt to even things out. So, We Are the Maw Champion, 8 home games. My Little Ponyta, 8 home games. And Houston Ho-Oh, 8 home games. The 2 that were in the championship, the Atlanta Fearow, will have 7. The Pokemon Power will have 7. And then my team was also a higher seed. I'll have 7. So, that's how that broke down. I'm excited. We might have a 16th week as a bye somewhere in there if needed. Like if we need a if something comes up one week, like I know last year. I don't plan on having a power outage every year, but last year we had a power outage that lasted 2 weeks, so we kind of had to take a week off at one point. So it could be a 16-week season instead of 15, but the idea is to play 15 matches, and I'm just genuinely excited. I can't wait for this to get going. Um, the managers are going to be submitting lineups to me by Friday night this week. This year. Yeah, this week. This year, of course. So I'm excited. I can't wait, and I really hope that me being predicted number one doesn't mean I'm going to finish dead last. I really don't like putting myself at number one. Last year I was number one in some of the preliminary analysis, and I've worked very hard to find a way to be second or third, which ended up coming true. Because I do not like predicting myself number one. I feel like it shows bias, and I think that it just doesn't look good in general. So I usually try to avoid it, but just I went over the analysis of some of these Pokemon 4, 5, 6 times, and just every time, no matter what I tried to do, it came back me as like one Pokemon ahead. So at the moment, I'm number one. I don't at all think that it's going to be an easy path. If anything, I think I've got a giant target on my team now, especially with already having having 8 away games. But that's where it stands right now. I wish everybody good luck that's participating. And for those of you that have been watching, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all that nonsense if you've enjoyed this video. And we'll start off this weekend. See you guys all then. Bye-bye.